All right, so today we're going to make a different sort of video based on a comment that I got this morning about my previous video. And in it, they talked about the book 1984, and they kind of pushed me towards making a video that compares 1984 to today's economy. Well, I can't do that with talking points, but I can create a script and read this script to you guys, and this is going to be extremely funny, but informative at the same time. So this is what it gave me when I asked ChatGPT to make the script. In 1984, George Orwell described a world where the government controlled every aspect of truth, history, and even reality itself. Economic politics and resource management were just another tool for control, a way to keep the citizens dependent, obedient, and most importantly, confused. Have you felt confused recently? I've been looking for a new job for months now, and I'm confused all the time because I look at what I currently make, then I look at the economy, then I look at my education, and I am very, very confused about what's going on here. So let's get into this 8 paragraph script, and I will comment briefly after every paragraph, and then I'll talk at the end to see what I think about what I wrote, because I haven't read this yet, folks. So here we go. Good news, citizens. Due to strong economic growth, we're increasing your benefits by a generous 5%. Update, citizens. Due to ongoing supply chain challenges, we'll need to roll back last month's benefit increase by 10% to keep the economy stable. Sounds like Fed cuts to me. Up and down, not knowing what to do, confusing everyone, but making it seem like we're getting something out of it. All right, next paragraph. Sound familiar? 1 minute we're hearing about economic growth, stock market booms, and how well the economy is doing. The next minute, layoffs, price hikes, and cuts to services are suddenly necessary sacrifices. It's the classic 1984 bait and switch, where the narrative changes to suit those in power and those who question it. Well, they're branded as they're branded as misinformed or divisive. I'm not sure how that sentence goes on there, but whatever. Next paragraph. In 1984, language was crafted to control perception. Phrases like doublethink and newspeak masked uncomfortable truths. Today, economic language shifts constantly. Inflation becomes transitory, recession turns into soft landing, and cost of living increases are downplayed as market adjustments. The point? To confuse, dilute, and deflect any focus on how regular people are being impacted. You know, whenever they use the word impacted, I think of good old Fleece impacting my rear tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock to let me know who's in control. All right, next one. 1984 history is rewritten in real time to support the current narrative. The Ministry of Truth constantly changes records to make past predictions align with present realities. Today, when economic forecasts are missed or metrics get revised, it's almost forgotten the original predictions were ever made. 1 month we're promised the falling inflation and low unemployment. The next month, figures change, and yet the old promises are erased from memory. This sounds exactly like what we're living through right now. In 1984, any dissenting thought or questioning of authority's narrative is policed. Sound like social media today? Express doubt about economic recovery or mention how inflation is actually affecting you, and you'll be told you're misinformed. Divisive or spreading fear, just like Orwell's world, questioning the economic status quo is often met with an immediate label. You're pessimistic, ungrateful, or even anti progress. I've been branded all of those things throughout my entire life. I look at the economy, I look at the jobs that I've had, I look at the world I live in, and if you're optimistic about the way things are right now, then you need to go right back to drinking more Pearl beer. because only a person that was completely intoxicated would look at this economy and think this is good for me. The only people who think this economy is booming for them are the rich. And the rich don't have problems like being able to afford rent or finding a halfway decent job close to your house so you're not spending an hour commuting each way in stop and go traffic. All right. In 1984, the party kept people too exhausted and overworked to think critically about the system. Today, rising cost and stagnant wages mean people work longer hours just to stay afloat, with little time or energy to question the bigger picture. As Orwell wrote, if there's hope, it lies in the proles. But keeping the proles too busy surviving means they can't focus on much else. This is exactly what I've been talking about for months, is that the proles are in survival mode. They can't focus on much more than getting food into their pie holes and getting a little sleep. In fact, this morning, I went back to the Kroger's after the gym because I needed to get a couple of things to make my breakfast with. And I walked up to the front of the counter, and there was the same cashier that I saw last night. She's standing there looking very British, looking haggard as hell because she had to close last night. And this morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, she had to open. And you know why that is? Because they can't afford to find more people that are willing to accept the minimum wage in a store that's already short staffed to the nth degree. That store should have 10 times more workers in it than it actually does. Instead, it's been running on a skeleton crew since the pandemic. And when you have young workers, like she's a freshman in college, and you work them like this, open, close, open and close, they don't last long. In fact, they had 3 cashiers yesterday call out sick because they were just tired of it. You walk in and there's one cashier at self-checkout, one at Express, and you're like, where are all the workers? Beaten. They're too focused on trying to stay alive, and they just don't have the energy. When you're not working at Kroger's, you're doing schoolwork. When you're not doing schoolwork, you're somehow finding some gig job to help get you by. But all the time that you're working, it's not enough money in order for you to be comfortable. Taking the time away from the proletariat in order to force them to work harder for the bare minimum is cruel and unusual in my opinion. Just like the constant state of war in 1984, which justified shortages and kept the populace unified under fear, today's focus on international conflicts often overshadows pressing domestic economic issues. It justifies massive spending elsewhere, while citizens struggle with inflation, housing shortages, and uncomfortable healthcare. It's a cycle that keeps us distracted and divided. How often do we hear about Israel? Every day. How often do we hear about the Ukraine? Every day. How often do we hear about people helping the homeless? Crickets, right? Absolute crickets. They would rather hurt them by destroying their encampments and pretending that they're not there rather than realize, oh no, we have our own problems at home. Our own problems start at the homeless and just work their way up from there. Why did these people become homeless? Because of a disgusting, crappy work economy that isn't working for the vast majority of the people at the bottom. So, what happens when you can't get a real job? You become homeless. And then once you become homeless, it's really hard to get back into a job again because nobody wants to hire you when you smell like garbage. But no one seems to care about that. We're always distracted by something else. And right now, what are we most distracted about? An election that means absolutely nothing to regular proles. Orange guy gets in, who cares? He's going to make our lives more miserable, probably try to lock up a bunch of us. The other president gets in there, it's going to be more of the same. It's going to be like the same 8 years we had of Obama, where he could do absolutely nothing. He got voted into the White House because he ran on change, and we saw absolutely nothing change. And now here we are again. It's again, to me, it looks like Hillary versus Trump. And you know what? What happened then? Right now, I'm reading polls that say differently, but honestly, I don't care. It does. When politics don't matter to poor people, they don't matter to anyone. other than the people who are spending millions of dollars to make sure whichever one of their horses wins the race. All right, so last paragraph here. In 1984 wasn't just a story, it was a warning. When economic policy feels more like a magic trick than the path to prosperity, maybe it's time to start questioning who's really benefiting from all this economic growth. Remember, Orwell showed us that when you control the narrative, you control reality. And those who question that reality, they're the ones who see the truth. I'm the truth seer, folks. I've been telling you guys these things for years now. I've never blended it this closely with Orwell, but 1984, I would have to say, is one of my favorite books of all time. And I started reading it when I was 16 years old, and I didn't understand it back then. To me, the only things that 16-year-old millennial Steam remembers is the getting it on with from Watson and the chocolates. That's all I could remember. And I thought, when I was 16, I thought how old Watson was and how he was getting some. I just thought, well, that girl's a Susie Rottencrotch, and Watson is a much older Johnny Sixpack. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This isn't one of a lot of discussion. This wasn't a talking video. This is more of a reading video. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. I'm not sure when this video will go up, if it will be this afternoon, but it seems like it's shorter than a normal video, so it's probably going to be tomorrow morning's video. Till then, stay strong, proletariat.